And tonight, on the BrokkrDwarf show, we have a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome BrokkrDwarf! So, how you been, mate? Oh, yeah, mate, I've been great. Thanks for asking. How about you? How you doing? Oh, mate, I'm just grand. I'm doing absolutely amazing. So, when's the next video? That's a good one. Wait, where'd he go? Where'd everyone else go? What the fuck? Can anyone hear me? So anyways, Brock, do you have any interesting stories that have happened on Purity over the time you've been playing? Maybe you could tell us about? As a matter of fact, I do, Brock. I think I've got a few good ones for you. Today I'm going to be talking about some stories that showcase a side of Minecraft Anarchy that is rarely spoken about. A darker side, which may or may not involve actions that spill into actual real-life crimes in some countries. Both stories are pretty wild, but in different ways. But don't worry, it'll be fun, you'll see. I'm going to be talking about the stories of two players, both of which made key mistakes which they were unable to recover from, which eventually sealed their fates on the server forever. These two stories are very different. Both players couldn't be further apart from each other by any quantifiable measure. One was rich, popular, feared, left a legacy where people still talk about him on the server to this day. The other was poor, disliked, made fun of, and was more or less forgotten by the community at large as soon as he left it. However, despite their stark differences in their time spent on Purity, their paths intersected at various points, and they both met the same fate by the end of their respective journeys. So our first story is that of a man named Wackos08. Yeah, I know. Anyone who recognises that username just rolled their fucking eyes and probably threw up in their mouths. But trust me, it's an interesting story, just keep watching. So our story begins on the 20th of October 2022, when Wackos joined Purity Vanilla for the first time. And that is immediately when the problems began. Wackos is what you would call a yapper. And a retard. On Anarchy servers, you get some players who just talk and talk in chat and don't actually play the game. For whatever reason, they just like talking about nonsense to whoever wants to fucking listen. Most people will just call him a retard and put him on ignore, but others will entertain the yapping, which only leads to people like Wackos feeling emboldened by the attention and say progressively edgier stuff just to get even more attention. Because like I said, they're retards. So during his first few weeks on Purity, he started speaking to people like Straub and Acid Witch on the server who initially were quite friendly towards him. However, they quickly turned their backs on him as soon as he started saying things like this in chat. Because honestly, who the fuck would find this funny? After Wackos said these things to Straub and the other people in chat at the time, the pedo allegations began, which plagued Wackos' reputation for the rest of his time on Purity. Some more examples of the shit he said are on screen now. I'm not going to say them out loud, for obvious reasons. Now yes, I know these quote-unquote jokes are completely fucking stupid and shouldn't be said by anyone in any context ever. However, let's make things clear from the off. Do I believe that Wackos is an absolute fucking retard for saying the things that he said in a video game? Yes, most definitely. Do I believe that Wackos is a paedophile in real life? No, I do not. He got labelled as a paedophile for the things he said in chat, and I think most people would agree that he deserves it, me included. But I personally don't think that this Australian kid called fucking Wackos, who said some retarded shit in a video game, is actually a paedophile in real life. Fucking sue me, I guess. I don't fucking care. I want to start off with just asking for your age, like how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Okay, so does that mean you were 18 when you first joined Purity Vanilla?
Yep, just finished high school.
So you made some pretty horrendous jokes in game. I know it was a while ago, but do you remember the jokes you made at the time?
Not really.
I'll send you. I'll send you some examples. So, what do you think of that? What I just sent you?
Look, mate, yeah, of course it was dumb shit, but this is a video game, right? This is a block game. So, like, it doesn't, I don't think it really matters what I say.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Straub in private?
Yes, I remember I was quizzing her math skills since her year 12, or her final exams are happening soon. Well, actually, they're happening in a day, I reckon. She didn't know shit. She didn't know her trigs, like her sine, tan, cos. Like, literally, that's like the easiest stuff in maths, so she was a dumbass.
You were making fun of her because of her math skills.
Yeah, basically.
Do you think that's why she started with like the pedo shit and that? Because you were making fun of her?
Yeah, she just randomly called me a pedo out of nowhere, and then I guess you just caught on.
So moving on from that, as you might imagine, he quickly became the punching bag of a server as a consequence of the things he said in those early days, and a lot of people wanted to see him suffer. However, this didn't deter him from playing and making friends on the server. Over the course of 2023, he befriended a few other players with whom he formed a small group and built a base with. These players were Vitracan, PogChamp2, Pinocchio, Matt for Matthew, and Yams. This base was fine, but nothing special. The problem with Wakos is that after over a year of playing and having that base, he still remained poor. He never elevated himself above the status of being a grey fag, or a no-name as the community calls newer players. But anyways, some time passed, then eventually in early October of 2023, their first base got griefed by Eve Q and other members of SD, her faction. They then went on to another base, which quickly got griefed about 2 months later as well. Now, I'm going to say something that might surprise you. I based with Wakos in November of 2023. Shocking, I know. Who could have seen that one coming? I'd say friends is a stretch, but I was in a group chat of his where they were building their second base and I was part of it. This is the base that got griefed in late November 2023, about 2 months after the first one. For context on my side, at the time I was joining various different groups and bases because I was looking to do my first video on Purity and was trying to find good content for it, like bases and groups, etc. Eventually, I ended up talking to Abelman in one of his group chats, which led to us making the MFE video together. But anyways, I went to Wakos' base one time and set a stasis there, then fucked off because I had some other shit to do. By the time I was ready to come back to that base, it got insided and griefed by Lauxi and his faction SD. Remember the name Lauxi, by the way? He might be relevant later. They called the grief video Epstein's Island Grief, and the main part of the base was this really ugly fucking dirt dome that Wakos built, which made him even more of a laughingstock than what he already was on the server. Do you regret the stuff you said back then? Like the comments and stuff?
Well, I used to when I was playing, right? Because after we got grief, I thought, far out, that was totally my fault, and I let my base mates down. But now that I'm banned, fuck me, man, who cares? It's over, that's the past.
The plan from the group after the second base fell was to move on to another base, but something happened which no one could have accounted for. While in the process of moving everyone's resources over to the next location for the base and setting up the initial base camp, an argument broke out between myself and Wakos due to our different approaches to leadership, which led to both of us parting ways, and the new base quickly got self-griefed. Dude! What the fuck?! Half of the group decided to move on with me, and the other half stayed with Wakos. One of the people who sided with Wakos was a friendly newish player called Yams, in-game name Beheld Nat, who had been part of a previous base. I didn't think much of it at the time, and wished him good luck with their future on the server. Very shortly after this incident, Wakos and Yams were in a Discord call in which Wakos revealed that he was using a hacked client to play on Purity, which I remind you is not allowed on a vanilla Anarchy server. The next day, a message popped up in chat. Wakos was permanently banned from Purity Vanilla. It turns out that Yams was in fact an insider and had been insiding the group since the beginning of the second base, and he had finally gotten Wakos to trust him enough to let his guard down and give him what he truly wanted, the ability to ban Wakos from the server once and for all, which he used immediately. He took screenshots and video evidence of Wakos using the worst client on the server and immediately reported it to Purity staff. That shit was done and dusted in about 5 minutes. Probably the easiest open and shut case in the history of Purity Vanilla. Bro got caught red-handed, and there's nothing Wakos could do about it. Do you regret using cheats which led to you getting banned?
Yeah, nah. No, like, a lot worse, you know, like Minecraft would just be like completely unplayable without it, you know, like worse, it just makes part of the game feel more natural, more easy, or it's just automated, so you don't have to really do it or think too hard about it. Like, if I didn't have it, I just wouldn't play Minecraft. I would just quit a while ago if I didn't have hacks.
Yeah? So, why didn't you play on like a full hack Anarchy server if you liked hacks?
Honestly, it's just not the same, you know, like, I just like the simplicity of like undetectable hacks, right? And I don't really like it going overboard with like those flight hacks and stuff.
Okay. Alright. Well, thanks for your time, mate. I think I have everything, so... So in conclusion, was Yams in fact a Lauxi ult? Probably not. In this exchange, he says his main is called Cullum, and he seems to have a friendly relationship with Lauxi. But the reality is that I don't really know who he was for certain, nor have I really looked into it that much, to be honest, because to me, that's not really the point here. The point is that someone actually went to all of these lengths, sending messages on Discord every day, being friendly, playing for a few hours on that account more or less every day, contributing to the group and building at multiple bases. All of this in order to get Wakos banned on Purity. And you might think insiding a group for multiple months just to get one of the members banned from the server is a pretty crazy level of commitment to a fucking kids game. But in reality, this is just the lengths some people are willing to go to in order to remove the people they don't like from their community. Turns out saying horrible shit for attention does have consequences. In real life, just like in a video game. Who fucking knew, right? Now, Wakos' story is not a unique one. I would argue that people like Wakos are actually a dime a dozen on Anarchy servers like this. Some people are even worse as well. To me, Wakos' story is more of a warning or an example of the kinds of people you might encounter in places like this on the internet. And can also be a lesson of what not to do if you ever feel like you want to get noticed in a public forum or community. Sometimes being quiet instead of just saying whatever stupid shit that goes through your brain can save you a lot of hassle later on down the line. Alright, well, on that somber note, let's move on to the second story! It's November 2019. Purity Vanilla is a young up-and-coming server that has been going steady for about 7 months. They're averaging a solid 25 to 30 concurrent players with a growing community and a mod team taking regular surveys in order to determine the direction the server will take in the coming months. A player named Lauxi joins the server for the first time. He starts by asking a few questions, gathering as much information as he can about the server he has just joined. He then quietly devises a plan and sets off on his adventure. Now, Lauxi is a very different player than the likes of Wakos. I would say they're actual polar opposites, as Wakos just talked absolute nonsense and did nothing else for the first week of his playtime. Lauxi, on the other hand, remained quiet, only asking the odd question that was relevant to the information he needed at any given time. The reality is that for the next few years or so, not a huge amount happened when it comes to Lauxi. He never joined a major faction or participated in well-known events, so there's just not a huge amount to talk about here. Also, unfortunately, Lauxi refused to be interviewed for this video, so it is what it is. Let's move on. Fast forward to late 2023. Purity Vanilla is now a 5-year-old server with more than 70 concurrent players. And Lauxi has gone from a relatively quiet average player to quite a rich and powerful Purity regular. He's bought ultimate ranks on his accounts for real life money, and if these pictures are to be trusted, he's bought hundreds of real life dollars worth of resources on the server by this point. He's also been running a shop for a few months with some friends of his called the Manhattan Project, which is going pretty well. In early November 2023, he joins a then brand new faction called the Serenity Division, aka SD. Now, some of you may have been confused earlier in the video when I mentioned the SD faction, but didn't really give much detail. In all honesty, I think they deserve their own video, so I won't drone on about them for too long here. But the long and short of it is that the Serenity Division are currently one of the most influential factions on Purity Vanilla. They describe themselves as a builder faction, but I'd say they're more known for their griefing than their building, to be honest. First of all, when and how did Lauxi initially join SD? Like, how was the whole process and the context surrounding it?
He was just kind of like around, and I didn't intend for the group to end up as like big as it was. I kind of just wanted it to be like a little spawn base for people to hang out at. And so I thought he was a cool guy. You know, I had bought from him a few times because he was trying to start a shop, and we became friends, so I just gave him cords. And he was one of the first people in the Discord.
He was one of the first, like, members of SD then, I guess? Or...
Yeah, I'd say it was probably HT Pickled Pothead, who he's not in the group anymore, but I love, and then EveQ, and then probably him.
Oh, wow. So what was your relationship like with him? How well did you know him, like, in-game and even outside of the game, maybe?
Well, at first, I didn't really know anyone on Purity very well, but Lauxi, I thought he was a really nice guy. He was really funny. I enjoyed talking to him, so yeah, we were pretty good friends. And I'm not gonna talk too much about outside of Purity, but we definitely were in contact outside of it, and we were, you know, playing other games and, you know, social media and all that stuff. Like, we were just friends, pretty much.
You guys had
like,
each other on
friends.
Snapchat, right?
Yeah.
As you might expect, due to how long Lauxi has been around for, and how rich he is on Purity now, his attitude has become a lot more boastful and arrogant, especially towards newer players. And also, Purity veterans just tend to be quite rude to others in general, due to the community culture you get on servers like this. But the thing with Lauxi that made him different to other veterans is that he really liked to pick on new players, or even grey names in general. To the point where sometimes it very much resembled bullying or targeted harassment, much more than it did just fucking around with a few new players. This gatekeeper attitude combined with the rise of SD was a perfect recipe for him to have his most successful stretch of griefs he had ever had up until this point, totaling over a dozen griefs over the span of 5 months from November 2023 till March of 2024. This includes Wakos's base, by the way. However, this stretch of wins did not last forever. In April and June, he started developing a bit of a feud with one of his faction mates, a player named Peleles. Partly due to this and simply being unlucky, Lauxi ended up missing out on a couple of major griefs, the Exarch grief and the first Vanguard grief. What was his role? Like, what did he do in SD? And like, what were the dynamics between him and like the other members of the faction at the time?
Well, this is interesting because I would say if you really had to like give him a label, Lauxi was a builder, but it's kind of funny. The first 3 months of the base, like the first base, the first project, Lauxi showed up and did not do anything. He came and laid a stasis, he claimed a spot for his build, and he built it in creative in like a week, and he just didn't do anything else. He just kind of dipped. and everyone was DMing me like throughout the course of like 3 or 4 months, just like, is this guy inciting? Everyone thought he was like inciting because no one knew him. Like, I would say that kind of ties into the dynamics with other people's in the group. Nobody knew who Lauxi was besides me and like I guess Eve Q, and everyone was afraid that he was inciting or something. So I called him one night and I told him to screen share his Discord, and to prove he wasn't inciting or anything. And then that week he came and he built his entire area, and I would say that was like the last spur of activity at that first base.
Yeah, he didn't really
I guess
get
he
along
was.
with like anyone
No,
else.
he did not. He did not get along with a guy named Peleles, also known as Furry Fox Gaming YT. They were not the best of friends. I don't know if you've covered it at all, but the THC grief, Lauxi was invited to grief THC with Sponge Ready, someone who me and Lauxi griefed just a few months prior. And there was a lot of contention. A lot of people thought that Lauxi, when he griefed the base with Sponge Ready, people thought he was snubbing us out of the grief because he easily could have given us cords. And people also thought that Lauxi, he did give us cords just after the base was already griefed.
Oh, okay.
Peleles was not happy about that. I don't think Sissy was either, mainly because they are the base hunters of the group and they find us 90% of the things we griefed. And he kind of just disregarded that and didn't invite them. But overall, I would say it was pretty. He was kind of I don't want to say he was the black sheep, but the big things that Lauxi, I would say, probably kind of set him off to do that THC thing, not invite any of us, was he didn't get invited to the X-Arc grief.
Okay.
He was not happy about that. X-Arc was a huge base, and he didn't get invited to it because that was something that was in the works for a long time. And I didn't go to it either. I wasn't invited, and he took it personally. And then he didn't get invited to the first Vanguard grief. It was a nice base, but it was something that we had to grief the day I got coordinates, and he wasn't online, so I didn't invite him. I don't think he liked that very much, and so I think even though we did grief stuff with him and give him invites, he thought that we were like leaving him out.
Due to these griefs being so large in terms of size and reputation, Lauxi didn't take the fact that he missed them very well at all. He believed that he was being left out of the better griefs and only given the smaller, shittier ones the other SD members didn't want. There was, however, one incident that set Lauxi down the path of no return, and it might not be what you think it is.
I would say the beginning of the end was probably the tent map. We had a tent map over the summer. It was just meant to be a day long, so I think most of the people in SD kind of hung out with some of the people in Vel and made a little base and traded with some villagers, and we were just killing people. It's fun because it was a tent map. It didn't really matter. And Lauxi joined a little later. It's kind of funny. Me, Sissy, Peleles, Old Man, Kaudi, I think Sakoki, Poplafaz, Dragon Frogman, we were all at spawn. Fodblow too, even. I don't even know who else. We were all at spawn killing a bunch of the Vanguard members who were coming to spawn to try and kill us. And Lauxi had a really bad habit of messing with Greys on the server. As I'm sure everyone knows, it ended up actually being his downfall. He decided to chase around some Greys on the tent map and try to kill them and bed trap them. And Lauxi was in some iron armor and he didn't have any food, and so he managed to get himself in a situation where he had a half a heart, and 2 or 3 naked Greys that no one had ever heard of had wooden swords and were about to kill him. And so he logged out, and he threw a temper tantrum trying to get me to go get him and save him. And we were hunting down some guy called Xanthippus. Me and Old Man were busy, so I ignored him, and Lauxi logged back in, and he fell off a little hill and died, lost everything, and he was not happy about that at all. He was really upset, and he tried to leave the group that day because he died on the tent map. Yes, and so I calmed him down, I thought, at least. He removed the tag out of his name. He said he wasn't going to have anything to do with this for a while.
That evening on the temp map is probably the moment when he began plotting his next move. He wanted to hit Peleles and the other members of SD where it would hurt them most. He wanted to grief KI base.
You know, for I'd say for a solid few weeks, we were kind of on edge, thinking, is he gonna inside to his MP friends, like what's going on? Because he was being really weird. And then I would say I thought everything was going all right. He put the tag back in his name. He came back to base. He was hanging out with us a little bit. And then one night, he decided to DM me and tell me that he found the KI base.
Yep.
And that is a base that 3 people in SD were at. I'm friends with the majority of the people at that base anyways. And so he kind of put me in an awkward position. And at the end of the day, he was just trying to test me to see if I would side with Peleles or if I would side with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, they had some quarrels in the past.
He didn't know it yet, but this is the key mistake in judgment that sowed the seed of his eventual downfall. Due to Lauxi's attempt at getting KI chords, Caleb and the rest of SD made the decision to cut all ties with him and move on to another base. However, at this point they didn't know whether Lauxi truly had the KI base chords or not. So in order to find out, they came up with a cunning plan.
And so I made the decision to tell them that he said he had found the base, because at the end of the day, I don't think it would be okay for me to just go ahead and like grief the base with him. We kind of formulated the plan that we'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We'd had a lot of, you know, people had had a lot of arguments with him in the past, so we decided this base is dead. It has not been active for 3 months, 4 months. We will pretend like Peleles and Sissy incited it with 3M. We set everything up. We griefed the base. We had the entire server convinced that, you know, SD got inside and it was being griefed. We bombed the place with withers, and everyone on, you know, the server could hear the, you know, the global wither sound. So Lauxi heard about it pretty quickly that SD was being griefed. And I told him that, you know, it was Peleles and Sissy. We were being incited, and he was obviously very upset. And the whole point in doing all of that was to figure out whether or not he had KI base, because we assumed, you know, if he thinks that they're griefing our base, his first reaction is going to be, okay, we're going to go grief KI.
Yep.
And because he at that point didn't know I told them that he had the chords. He freaked out and he DM'd me, and in a panic he told me that he was lying about having the chords. He said it was just a joke, which he later admitted it was to try and figure out if I would side with him or Peleles. But he said his plan was to convince them that we had the chords so that they would self-grief, and that would be his way of getting revenge for them inciting the group. And then, you know, he eventually did find out that we weren't being incited, that it was kind of an inside job.
SD griefed their own base on the 30th of July 2024. The grief and some of the drama surrounding it was showcased in a YouTube video called the SD Civil War, which has already gained legendary status in the community. And just like that, it was all over for Lauxi. The betrayer had been double-crossed. He had lost his faction, his friends, and he was made to look like an idiot in a YouTube video for everyone in the community to see. In this moment, we don't really know what Lauxi may have been thinking, but we definitely know he wasn't thinking straight. If he hadn't made the decision to lie about KI base, Lauxi would probably still be playing Purity today. But alas, we are not in that timeline. We are in a much, much darker one. That same night, he was hanging around spawn fucking with new players again. He then decided to give one of them a lag sword, which is an item with a bunch of glitched out letters in the name designed to lag out the server and get the user holding it banned. However, since the user was able to prove that it was Lauxi who gave him the sword, Lauxi got himself a 7-day temporary ban instead. A few days after the SD base grief, while Lauxi was serving his 7-day temporary ban, a new account logged onto Purity Vanilla with the real life name of one of the members of SD. This constitutes as an attempt at doxing due to the fact that the person who was named on that account did not consent to having their real life name, which is private information, given out publicly on an online forum. And depending on the country you live in, that is very much an illegal thing to do. I will not say which member of SD it was to prevent any further bullshit from happening, but this really did happen. The members of SD immediately reported this to the mod team to get the account removed from the server records, as even though no one knew the account was an SD member's real life docs, this could very easily set a precedent for blackmailing on the server in the future. Up until now, all of the drama had been strictly within the realms of the game. However, now the water begins to muddy, and online feuds start to spill into real life. The mod team investigated the doxing claims, and 2 days later, out of seemingly nowhere, Lauxi was permanently banned from Purity Vanilla.
As to what he did, you know, what they got him permanently banned, I wasn't involved in any of that, so I can't give you a definitive answer. I don't know for sure what happened. You talk to some people and they'll say that, you know, Lauxi definitely, you know, did what he was accused of, and some people will say that he, you know, was being framed to get him off the server. But at the end of the day, he got banned for it, so I kind of stopped talking to him after that. And he didn't, you know, I doubt he would have any interest in talking to me. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a video game, but, you know, it was all just a big mess, kind of. It was definitely did not go according to plan.
Now, I'm not going to explicitly say that these two events are related to each other, but I think you can come to your own conclusion as to who is the culprit. Over the next few weeks, there was some cope from Lauxi claiming that he never did the account thing, but most people ignored it. And eventually, the server returned to normal, and everyone moved on, with Lauxi becoming just another bad memory for most of us. So I did say that I never got an interview with Lauxi, which is true, but at the time when the drama was happening, before he got permabanned, I did message him asking if he wanted to talk about the grief in an interview, and this is what he said. A lot of people have already made up their minds, and I don't think they will be possible to convince, but I'll think about it. My interpretation of this message is that of a man who knows he made a mistake, but has resigned to the fact that he will most likely never recover from it, no matter what he does. Perhaps at this point he didn't fully realise what the consequence of his actions were going to be, as after he was banned he did speak in other Purity Vanilla related discords for some time. He always claimed he was innocent, and never once admitted to doxing. You guys haven't spoken since when he told you he didn't have cords to.
We have. He told me he didn't, and then after the whole situation with his permanent ban,
yeah.
I talked to him once, and just, you know, he told me he didn't do anything, and I didn't really respond. I didn't tell him I believed him. I didn't tell him I didn't believe him. And then he DM'd me and let me know that the group was gonna fail without him. Yeah. And then that was the last time I ever spoke to him.
So, what's the takeaway of this story? I don't fucking know. Don't dogs, I guess? In all honesty, I think that Lauxi just started to take the game too seriously by the end of it. I mean, it's one thing being an asshole, betraying people, running angles, and griefing within the realms of an Anarchy server, but trying to get people banned and doxing because your friends fucked you over and hurt your feelings? Come on, man. Doing that shit's just sad. To me, Lauxi's story is a reminder that if you ever get actually mad at some shit like this in a video game, that's fine. It happens to all of us at some point. But in that moment, if you're about to do some fucking dumb shit, just hold off for a minute. Take a breather, maybe go for a walk or do some physical activity for a while until you forget all about whatever you were mad about in the first place. And then maybe dox them after that.
Albuquerque, New Mexico, that's where you're from.
Kidding, obviously. Lauxi's story could have been one of perseverance and triumph. He could have kept going and made new friends, He could have maybe fucked SD over in some way eventually. The guy played Purity on and off for like 4 years. What's 1 more year to get revenge? But unfortunately, that's not what we got. He let it all get to him and did some dumb shit. And everything he had was gone in an instant. Well, I say everything, but that's not exactly true. Right, I got one more thing to talk about and then we're done, I promise. So, when a player gets banned, their character and everything in their e-chest is deleted. If they had any known alt accounts, all of those are deleted as well. However, things that they built, like bases, don't get deleted. So if they had something like a stash, for example, that would still persist in the world. Now, I have been told by some credible sources that Laoxi had a very, very big stash with a lot of valuable items. I'm talking resources, but also unique items like books and map arts and stuff, items from 2019, collector shit that could potentially be worth a small fortune in ingots or even a solid amount of real life cash if you can find a buyer. Bear in mind, this guy was fucking rich, right? He would legit just buy in-game items for real-life money. This guy didn't care about fucking grinding for shit. He just wanted stuff. And to our knowledge, Laoxi never gave anyone cords to it, so it's just sitting around gathering dust. Now this stash, right? It's out there. It exists. You can find it. And if you do find it, well, you're a fucking lucky guy, because that shit is probably nigh impossible to find. Best of luck to you with that. I'll be watching. Alright, that's enough yapping for one evening, I think. Oh, fucking hell. I think everyone fucked off already. Damn. Alright, well, I guess I'll head off as well. Good night, everyone. I will see you when I see you.